Sure. I'll talk it out.
Yeah, let's just have a conversation.
Track 3.
Better not be fucking Dave Matthews Band.
Okay. Those of you who don't want to be a part of this can leave now.
Derek, please listen to me.
But if you choose to stay, which it seems like you guys are choosing,
Derek, please.
you understand and agree to the following terms and conditions.
Derek!
1.
Derek, this is the virus
You
talking.
hereby waive your right
Derek, please.
to your own personal bodily integrity.
This is not you.
2.
I'm a life.
Per the state versus Neville Reed, my colleague and I will not be held criminally liable for any felony or misdemeanor that you may be a victim of, including, but not limited to, aggravated assault, aggravated battery, disorderly conduct, destruction of property, mayhem, and first-degree murder. And 3, terms and conditions may change or be updated whenever the fuck I want! Consider yourselves notified.
What up, everyone? DJ Anubis
And DJ Neko.
here with you on the Metal Time Radio podcast, continuing our journey with Anubis's top 50 movies of the 21st century. We've already done 50 through 41. Now we were doing 40 through 31. And I'm joined by my partner in crime, DJ Neko, of course. And she will give her input on whether or not I'm an idiot or she agrees with my selections. So, how did you feel about the first 10 that we did? Like, I know you were kind of like, Godzilla too low. Maybe some things are too high.
I don't know. I think you and I differ on how we rate things, especially because a lot of times I rate things based on my watchability, but also based on how good the movie is too.
Quality.
Yeah, the quality. But I don't know. Like I really am surprised Godzilla was as low as it was, because I would have put it much higher.
And I think also when we talked about it last time, I was like, one thing that you may realize by the time we get to the end of it, all of it, is that you're going to see the top 10 and be like, oh yeah, okay, well, these are really good movies. I can kind of understand why you put them there.
I mean, it's a lot to go through.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 years.
Definitely.
Movies,
It's very tough. I had to like weed out stuff that was like, But this is going to be controversial probably with her already. Jumping out at number 40.
Okay.
We have 2001's Joe Dirt.
I love that movie, and I think, number 40 is probably a good spot for it.
Well, when you think of just, because like we're mixing up genres, it's not like we're just doing one genre. So comedy-wise, that would probably be way, way up there. You know what I mean? But when you're adding in all these other genres of film that we watch, it's like, where do you fit it in? And
we had Napoleon Dynamite on the last one, right?
Yeah.
I do think Joe Dirt is a higher quality comedy than Napoleon Dynamite. Both very different, but again, I'm thinking about my watchability. I probably watched Joe Dirt 4 times as much as I did Napoleon, and I think sometimes you just need to be in the mood for Napoleon.
Yeah, there are different types of comedy approaches. Well, anyway, Joe Dirt, released in 2001, directed by Denny Gordon, cast as David Spade, Brittany Daniel, Dennis Miller, Jamie Presley, Kid Rock, and Christopher Walken. Obviously, here's a scene with Joe Dirt and Brittany. I forget her character name in there. But very good acting there on our part. And then, of course, probably one of our favorite scenes is Jamie Presley and Spade doing the I'm your sister, I'm your sister.
I'm your sister.
So the plot is, of course, after being abandoned by his parents at the Grand Canyon, Joe Dirt tells the story of his journey to find his parents. Now, granted, at this time, he's like a janitor at a radio station where Dennis Miller is like this host of a show, and he comes across Joe Dirt one day and decides to put him on his show, mainly to kind of like mock him because, Joe's got the mullet and all this other stuff going on. But eventually, Joe Dirt becomes this huge sensation across the
Because
listener
it's so
base.
interesting.
Right. And the story's so crazy. Like, it's like, wow, you went through all this. Of course, there's like which goes to Neko's heart is like this parody of Silence of the Lambs in there. So it's like you got that playing in a factor in there.
It's one of my favorite movies. if you
And
didn't
really,
know.
despite all the negatives about Kid Rock right now, he's actually pretty fucking funny in this film. Like he gives Joe Dirt a rash of shit. He's battling for the affection of Brittany Daniels' character, and yeah, he's just funny. Like it's a really good film. It doesn't take itself too seriously.
Robbie.
Robbie. XOXO.
XO.
Yeah, so definitely a great film. Belongs in any top 50 of this 21st century.
But now, was that included on the other one?
No. Mm-mm.
That's a crime.
Well, that's why when we talked about it last time, it's like the films they chose, I thought they were the most important in terms of like diversity and the subject matter. But people can look at films a different way as far as entertainment's concerned. Like some of the films they chose, I'm like, they're probably good films. They're just not something I would watch over and over again. Like, because you have films that are very good, well done. I'm just like, okay, that's a nice, important piece of movie making, but am I really entertained or I'm just like curious about it?
I mean, there's some good movies that we've watched that I'm like, once is enough, but I do respect that it was a good movie.
Right.
I understand why it was made or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, this is a great movie.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, like we were subjected to watch Citizen Kane. Once was enough for me. I will never go back and watch that film again, but I know why it's important in filmmaking. So it's just a matter, and like, but some people get entertained by that film. They still are entertained by that film. Schindler's List, same thing. But I find myself being
depressed. I've watched them both, and I'm like, I don't even remember half the crap in either one of them. Like,
all right, well, let's move on to 39.
Next.
We have 2003's Old Boy, Korean film. This was remade probably within the last 10 years or so. And basically...
Remade? Who did the remake?
American.
Yeah.
I can't remember who the director was, but the guy that... I always forget his name, but he played Thanos. He was the lead actor in that one. But this one was directed by Park Chan-wook, cast as Choi Min-sik, Yoo Ji-tae, Kang Hae-young. And the plot is, after being kidnapped and imprisoned for 15 years, Ode-soo is released, only to find that he must find his captor in 5 days. So it's been a while since I've watched this, and I don't...
Oh, he was in that room, and...
Yeah, and I don't know which version you saw, though. I don't remember.
I saw the Korean version.
Okay, so
I never saw the remake.
Well, both are very, like, even in fact, Elizabeth Olsen is in the remake too.
Maybe I'll like the remake. I love her as an actress.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, he's in prison for 15 years in this room. He gets out and he's trying to find the captor, but there's a lot of like dark shit underneath the surface here, and by the end you're just like, oh my god, what just fucking happened? So obviously the main character finds his daughter. In the case of Olsen, she plays the daughter of in the remake, but again, dark shit happens, and it's just a really crazy movie. But this, I felt like the original was better, just in terms of like there's this big fighting scene in the hall, and he's just kicking ass and cutting people up. It's just one of those films that stands out to me. Just really, really great storyline, cinematography. I think
the fighting was really
amazing. And in fact, it was the hammer he had, and he was just fucking people up left and right in that film.
And this is another movie where I would go and say, like, it has a higher rewatchability than, like you were saying, Schindler's List or Citizen Kane, or for me, rewatchability is a big deal. Because it's one thing to be an amazing film, but to be a great film and have me captivated to the point where I want to watch it. Like, this is from the 90s, but The Silence of the Lambs. A lot of people are just turned off. It is.
See, to me, that's a rewatch.
And that's a rewatch. I rewatch that regularly. Even
for
though,
many different reasons.
Yeah. And even though I know everything that's going to happen, I'm thinking about it and getting chills and stuff right now too, because it was so well made, so well acted, but also has that rewatch, level up here.
Yep. And that's the thing, like everyone's list when it comes to like their top 50 of this century, like could be different. Like we're not even through it all yet. So by the time this 21st century is done, my list might change a lot, depending on.
Are you expecting to live to 2100?
No, but that's why it's cool to do it now while I'm still alive. But you could be somebody that has like a bunch of superhero movies in your top 50 if that's what you find to be the best of the 21st century. But it just depends on who you are. This next film was actually one I had seen within the last 2 or 3 years. And I was kind of surprised by the time I got done with my list that it would actually make it in. Not because I thought it was bad or anything like that, but when I compared it to other films that I had in my list, I was like, well, this thing was really original. It really entertained me. I definitely watch it. I should own it. And it's really it's The Wolf of Snow Hollow. And really, really enjoyed this film a lot. I don't know if I kind of knew going in it wasn't quite going to be what I thought it was, but at the same time, I was glad how they did it. So the wonderful thing about this film, well, let me give you all the details first. It's in 2020. Director is Jim Cummings. He's also the lead actor in this film. Ricky Lindome and Robert Forster, who's been around for a while as far as acting is concerned. Plot is terror grips a small mountain town as bodies are discovered at each full moon. Losing sleep, raising a teenage daughter, and caring for his ailing father, Officer Marshall struggles to remind himself there's no such thing as werewolves. And the film just does a really, really good job of making you believe you're seeing what you're seeing. And
understanding the character's mindset.
Yeah, the characters, especially the woman and the lead actor, Jim Cummings there on the right, they're a little bit corny in some ways, so that can turn some people off in some ways. I think they're trying to like interject like little bits of like subtle comedy into it all, but it does. I don't know if it really works overall for me, but it doesn't really hurt it either. So, but there's a lot of great gore in this. And then when you get to the twist at the end, you're like, wow, that's fucking cool. It's really bizarre. But it stood out to me as far as like a film that I would really, really watch over and over again. Because it's just.
See, I'm the opposite. I know I watched this. I can hardly remember it.
Actually, I don't think you've ever seen it.
No,
I think
I did. We watched it together. I asked you to watch it with me.
Do you remember what happened at the end?
No. That's what I'm saying. Like, it had zero impact on me. And this would not be in my top 50 of the first 23 years of the 21st century at all.
See, I don't know, because like if I remind her what the ending is, I think she'd be like, I don't know if I've seen that. But you never know.
No, I just recognized the characters that you had up.
Maybe you saw it while you were out in the boat, because I'm pretty sure I watched it by myself.
I know, and I remember saying I wanted to watch it because I was listening to the podcast that was talking about it. And even after listening to the podcast that was talking about it, watching it with him, it left so little impact on me that I can barely remember the plot.
She was probably playing with her phone at that time.
I try not to. You know, I've been better. I've been trying to like pay attention.
I don't know. I give you credit for that. Sure.
Because like if something doesn't interest me, I will zone out immediately.
Let's see. 40, 39, 38. Now we're on 37.
Okay.
And that will be 2014's Rise of the Legend, China. The director, Roy Hin Young Chao, cast as Sammo Hung, Eddie Peng, and Ludan Wang. Plot is an orphan whose father has been killed by a dark power attempts to bring justice back to the town. And you'll find that in my list there's some martial arts films that I feel like deserve to be mentioned.
Recognition.
Yes, and I think that's fair, because normally they're not really included in greatest films ever. But I think maybe the one that would like Enter the Dragon, maybe, from Lee.
But that was in the 70s.
Right, but I'm
Yeah.
saying if someone was to say the best movies of all time, that might make it actually make it. Maybe Rumble in the Bronx with Chan, maybe just something like that.
I like Rumble in the Bronx.
Yeah. But yeah, this has a lot of great fight choreography, just a lot of great acting. Also, I believe it's not this one I'm thinking of, but just there's Sammo Hung on the left. He's a legend in martial arts, of course, and the film is just really, really fun. A lot of great fighting, great story. Yeah, I know you haven't seen this, so there's nothing much you can mention
No,
on it.
I haven't seen it. I mean, I like martial arts.
Yeah. I mean, you would enjoy it. You probably would, like, legitimately, because she is a martial arts fan.
Something we bonded on early in our relationship.
You love Kung Fu? I love
love-
Kung Fu.
I mean, I don't know if this is going to be on your list, but we really like the Ip Mans.
Yeah, you never know.
Never know.
Number 36 is definitely controversial, but again, we're talking about stacking it up against a ton of movies, right? But I know Neko and I never get tired of this film. We never get tired of quoting this fucking film, and that is Clerks 2.
Yes.
And the only reason why I'm not including the trilogy per se here, because normally I would.
Because Clerks 1 was in the 90s.
Well, that plus we haven't even seen the third one. People say it's good, but I can't make that distinction yet until we've actually seen it. So for now, just this one is in the top 50. So, and it could really, if there was no other films, this thing would be.
It could honestly stand by itself because it's so different than the first one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same characters being the same way they are, but it's a different story. And you don't have to watch the first one to see the second one. We're always joking about Clerks 2 all the time. We even have like a little secret thing about Clerks 2 that's like our own little secret thing. I don't know what else to call it. It's just
Our secret passwords.
Yeah, we don't share it with anyone.
Directed by Kevin Smith, who is well known, of course. Cast as Brian O'Halloran, Jeff Anderson, Rosario Dawson, and Jason Mewes. The plot is a calamity at Dante and Randall's shop sends them looking for new horizons, but they ultimately settle at the fast food empire Moobies. Yeah, it's such a great comedy. But, again, like, I know some people like the same way. They're like, it's not my brand of comedy. It's too dirty, too crazy. But you and I, we love that shit. Like, we just live for it.
Kinky Kelly and her sexy stuff.
And then yet again, you have Silent Bob and Jay. Like, Jay's doing Silence of the Lambs. Like, but the other thing is, like, the music in it. King Diamond, like, sings to our hearts. Like, we're metal fans, so having King Diamond being played in there, and
this is a good spot for Clerks 2, honestly.
It's really weird how this movie kind of like touches on just a bunch of stuff that we love, because even the moment between, I can't remember the character, but he's the other guy working with Jeff Anderson behind the counter, and he's the one who's a big Lord of the Rings fan. So, like, there's this making fun of that.
Ring to rule them all.
Right. So, it's just so much going on with this film, and Dawson is great in it. And
I love Rosario Dawson. She's so adorable.
yeah, she's amazing. In fact, I think she's in a new Star Wars side series called Ahsoka or something like that, but she's playing a Jedi. She was in The Mandalorian a couple times.
And I don't know if anybody out there has ever seen Rent, but she was in the movie Rent, the musical movie Rent. There it is.
Ooh. I cannot recommend this film enough. That guy in the left's the one that's like the real nerdy guy. What was the something troll that he had?
The pussy troll?
Yeah, he wouldn't let me. She wouldn't let me sleep with her because the pussy troll or some shit.
And the mouth troll?
Yeah, shit. So we're getting down to 35 now, kind of cruising through this, but that's okay because as we started doing that, we were a lot more familiar with a lot of these. Although I have a few in here that she probably has not seen that I would eventually have her check out if she could. People will be surprised by this one just because where it's at. But again, I can't stress enough. So many films, and I have a lot of films that I really, really love that, despite loving this film, would be precedent over that. And so at 35, 2002's Dog Soldiers.
Wow, that's low for you.
Yeah.
You love that movie.
I do. I love it a lot. Directed by Neil Marshall. It's cast as Sean Pertwee, Kevin McKidd, Emma Clasby, Liam Cunningham, who's also going to be in the upcoming Last Voyage of the Demeter that's coming out soon, the Dracula film. Plot is a routine military exercise turns into a nightmare in the Scotland wilderness. Without a doubt, though, this is the best werewolf film since The Howling and American Werewolf in London. Bar none. Bar none. They're just...
It's really interesting.
Oh, I can say, actually, not even that far back. You can go to The Bad Moon in the 90s, and that was a really great film, too. But when I can take my top three, Dog Soldiers is always up in the top three, so...
It's something, like, a little bit different,
Mm-hmm.
I think. And, I just like the way that the werewolves play out, honestly. And I like the way the story unravels because you're not expecting...
Yeah, it's got a nice little bit of comedy dipped into it, and then there's like gore, really good gore effects. It's real special effects. It's not the cheesy CGI stuff. The guy on the right,
practical effects.
he plays in another great film of mine, not very much, but he's in a film called Equilibrium with Christian Bale. Around the same time that film was made, but he's a really great actor. Shows up in a lot of films. Yeah, just, you've got these guys and they're doing military training, and it was supposed to be just for training, and they end up coming across some werewolves, a pack of werewolves, and having to battle them, and it's a really good story. They've been toying with the idea of doing like a sequel, but I think they should just kind of leave it alone.
Maybe not do a sequel, maybe do something like Something Else Happened. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like call it a sequel or a prequel, because if you watch the movie, you'll see this has kind of been happening over and over and over again for a really long time. So maybe another story about how this was happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, maybe not focusing, because this was a military excursion type thing. Maybe it's a full moon every month. So another story about like this wilderness area and what might have happened another month for the full moon.
Yeah.
So you guys, he just mentioned Christian Bale in Equilibrium, which is an awesome movie. He's in love with Christian Bale, so I'm pretty sure the top 10 are all Christian Bale movies. I'll be like, oh yeah, it's a really good movie. Batman Begins.
And I told you I had very few, superhero films. Like, it's kind of easy to go for those, but
I'm sure The Dark Knight is in there somewhere.
I don't think it is, to be honest.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
I have to recheck my list, but I don't think it is.
I can't believe if you didn't put The Dark Knight in there, the way that you...
I love that film a lot. I do, but again, we're just weighing it over so many films, man. It's like nuts. Like, there's a lot of shit. All right.
Next.
34. We have 2014's out of Japan is Killers. Very good film, directed by Kimo Stable, Timu Tajiato. Cast as Kazuki Kitamura, who we know on the left there. Who plays X in Godzilla Final Wars. That's how I kind of knew him originally. Oka Antara and Rin Takanashi. The plot is a psychopathic Japanese executive accidentally triggers a journalist's dark side. They begin to connect over the internet and make a complicated bond. So basically, what's happening is Kitamura's character is a serial killer. And so somehow this other executive catches wind on the internet with this and gets intrigued by it. So now it becomes the executive starts killing people. And now there's a competition between serial killers until they end up meeting and they have to try to kill each other because it's just competition. It's a great fucking film. I actually own this. You need to check it out pronto. Yeah, it's just crazy. It's gory, great acting. Many people know about it. Just wonderful, wonderful film, and I love it to death. So underrated.
I'm wondering if what list was it that we were looking at?
I think it was Hollywood Reporter.
Reporter.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if Hollywood Reporter was just sticking to American films too.
No, I don't think so. I have to double check it, but I don't think they were. I think because they did, like I said, they were trying to be inclusive, and so I want to say Parasite made it, and that's like Korean, I think, because that one won a bunch of awards.
Mm-hmm.
But they had a lot of different films just with different actors. I think Jordan Peele's American, but I think Get Out made it, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd have to double check, but I'm pretty sure they kind of looked around the globe because I saw stuff that I had never even heard of, like there might have been like Middle Eastern films or Bollywood, stuff like that.
I'm wondering too, like, did they go by like the Academy Awards or?
I have to go back and read the article, but I know that when I started reading it, they were just saying like we were trying to make our list because what they did was between all of the ones that contributed, they were all making these lists up, and then they voted down to like a certain number, and then they took that and voted down more. But
so they all submitted their movies and voted on the top 50.
But they agreed that whatever they did had to be inclusive. Like they made it a point to point it out that they were
like they're not doing all art house.
Right. Like they weren't going to be like me and say just like whatever. Like I don't think there's any superhero movies even in there. I want to say I really have to go back and look because, like I said, they had one movie that I thought deserved consideration. That was the Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind, the Jim Carrey film.
And so, I agree that does deserve it.
But yeah, it just depends. Like, but they already set their parameters, and I felt that kind of like pigeonholed them a little bit when you did that because you can see in my list I have a lot of diversity. There's a lot of different things I'm throwing in here, so it's like in some ways, like I recently saw the Bollywood film Triple R, which everyone had been talking about, and that's got a lot of great reviews from critics and audiences, and it's Fat Samurai Guy and all of them loved it. So I watched it a few days before you got home. I made a mistake of watching it late, and I thought, okay, well, I'll just start watching this and see what it's all about. Incredible film. And I started telling you about how like they incorporate the dance. Like it seemed out of place, but it was kind of fun. But I'm in watching this movie, and I get to a certain point, I'm like, okay, man, it's been like an hour and a half. Is this movie done? I hit pause, and I had like another hour. It's like 3-hour movie.
Oh my god!
But it's good. Like it's literally fucking good. Like there's a lot of crazy action in it, and I had a lot of fun with it. But it just threw me back because it really was the first kind of Bollywood film I sat and watched. Like I just was blown away though. It was really, really good. I really liked it. So I understand like where all the praise is coming from.
That's cool.
Yeah. All right. Hate to do this in echo, but it's another one we love so much. What are we at? 33? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So 2008's Step Brothers. Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly star in this film, as well as Mary Steenburgen, Adam Scott, Catherine Hahn, and Richard Jenkins.
I love Catherine Hahn.
Directed by, yeah, she's great. I love her.
Everything she's in, she's great.
Directed by Adam McKay. Plot is two aimless middle-aged losers still living at home are forced against their will to become roommates when their parents marry. I know this, and it's really shocking to me that I think it gets very poor ratings on Rotten
I
Tomatoes.
know.
Like, it's
we
really
love this movie, and we watched it by accident. Like, I think we were in Rite Aid or CVS, and we bought it. I mean, years ago.
yeah.
And we said, let's watch it. Looks like it'll be funny. We didn't know anything about what this was going to be.
I don't even remember it being promoted really. Like I didn't remember seeing trailers. Of course, it's I went way back then, so they didn't do many trailers on YouTube at the time.
And we loved it. Absolutely loved it. We thought it was hysterical. And I agree. Like, I do think this is a good spot for it. Like, it's hard because I don't think everybody's brand of comedy is that.
Well, yeah, and that's
but it is our brand of comedy.
When you read some of the critiques of critics and audience, they're like, I don't get it. I don't
They're like,
understand
I don't
why.
think it's funny, and I'm like,
Yeah, it's goofy, it's petulant. These guys are jackasses, but that's what makes it fucking hilarious. Like, they're just so fucking stupid, but the acting is great. John C. Reilly is an amazing actor. Like, and it's not to really take anything from Farrell, but Farrell, like we've always talked about, he's kind of hit or miss in his movies with us, but this is a hit. And the comedy's crazy. It's childish, but we're all into that. We love the stupid shit. We just love the stupid shit because it's so funny.
I mean, John C. Reilly was in the musical movie Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
He had his own Dewey Cox Walk Hard comedy. Remember that?
Walking around with a penis in his face.
So, what else has he done? He's done a couple of dramatic roles that were really great too. I just think sometimes, oh god, the Ricky Bobby movie.
Yeah. They're
both in that together.
They're sort of like another version or American version of like Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. Like, there's this, who was the real famous duo back in the day with the top hats? Laurel and Hardy.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, or you can go back to David Spade and Chris Farley. There's always like these little tag team of duos. They started doing movies together. They work well together. These two guys really work well together. They know how to play off each other. And that's what makes this comedy so special because, and Catherine Hahn and Adam Scott is actually fucking hilarious too. You knew him from Parks
and Rec. You'd know him from that.
He's
Catherine Hahn was also in Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
She made a few cameos. Catherine Hahn, even when she's just like a very supporting actress, I'm trying to think. Early 2000s movie, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, like a rom-com. She was in that, and she was funny.
She was in WandaVision.
Yeah.
She played the villain in that series, and she did great in that. Like, supposedly she's got a movie based on that character coming out.
I hope so, because I think she's one of those actresses that, she's a character actress, and she takes whatever character is given to her, and she's great in this, and she's great in WandaVision and everything. She just hasn't gotten that, big starring.
Yeah, she kind of flies under the radar, but the good thing is people do take notice. Like, you hear people talk about her all the time, just in circles and stuff. So at least she's getting noticed and all that stuff. So that's cool. Just the comedy in this is great, just all the way top to bottom for us. Like, when I have the comedies in this top 50, it's stuff that her and I really love. Like, just about every film that's going to be in here, comedy wise, I know that she's going to love as much as I do. So without, of course, the ending where Farrell's actually singing in this one. Then of course the Christmas. And of course, after the fight in the front lawn, where they're watching Shark Week and Still Hate Your Guts, But eventually they start bonding and getting along and stuff. But they're getting their ass kicked by the young kids in the park. I mean, it's really, I mean, it's dumb fun. Even Seth Rogen made an appearance in this film. All right, who's the other guy though that plays like Adam Scott's best friend in that film? Like he's actually very popular now, especially with NFL. He does a lot of that stuff.
I can't think of his name.
Pow!
Yeah, he goes, Pow! Are you saying Pow?
I'm sorry, you saying Pow? Or... All right, we're getting down to 32. And I really struggle with this because there's other movies that this actor is in that I really love. And I know Neko loves one of them because we watched it together and reviewed it probably a few months back.
Oh, wow.
But this is the first film I remember seeing him in. And it was before he was even a brand name, really, as far as I was concerned, because I didn't know anything about the movie or him at the time that I saw the film. But it's when I was really watching a bunch of these new martial arts movies coming out, like On Bak and Tony Jaa and them. But this is called Maranatau from 2009, and it's from Indonesian film, directed by Gareth Evans. The cast is the guy Iko Uwais, who we know from The Raid. Also, Siska Jessica, Christine Hakim, and Yayan Ruin is also in The Raid film. He's the shorter, real badass dude with the long hair. Because we had talked about how The Raid sort of influenced Dredd.
Mm-hmm.
So, because of the way they're fighting.
It's very similar. And I don't know which one. The Raid came out first, right?
Yeah, yep. Yeah, Dredd came out in 2011, I think. So.
I just remember we watched The Raid, and I think you watched Dredd without me, and then I watched it, and I'm like, I've already seen this movie.
Yeah, I remember that. You're like, but we've seen this at one on it. And then I had to think about it. It's like, oh, you mean The Raid,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And it kind of like just dawned. I was like, you're right. There's
it was
a lot of
so
similarities there.
similar, like lockdown and in a slum of a building, and it's very similar.
The plot of this is a young man from the countryside uses his skills in Salat martial arts to survive the slave trade.
Salah?
It's Silat. I don't really know what that means.
I don't know. I've never heard of that martial arts style.
But unlike some of the other films he's in, like this one really kind of had like a downer ending, so to speak. But again, fighting Iko is really, really great. He's become this big star now with all these movies, like The Night Comes For Us with Joe Taslim, who was in Mortal Kombat. So, he's really becoming a brand name in the world of martial arts, and that's really cool to see.
I think that's cool.
Yeah, I'm just happy for him.
Especially like this is an Indonesian flick, and Indonesia is an interesting place. Like, it's very, if you look at it on the map, the way that it's like all these like, they're kind of like not next to each other, but they're like not on the same. There's some islands. It's kind of like Thailand too. Like that whole, because Thailand's right by Indonesia and all, but like Thailand, like where I was kind of like down here. But when you think of Thailand, you think of Bangkok, but it's like all the way up and around here. But they're not actually like right. They're different. Like they're like Phuket, where is like, you know, vacation-y, and Bangkok is like a lot different. That's why I'm glad that there's something, because that whole area, most of the people are kind of impoverished.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of it, except for the touristy type places, which would be like Phuket, Bangkok, Indonesia. I'm trying to think, it might be Jakarta is
right.
So it's nice to see good things coming out of these areas. I remember where I was before we left, we were just like, okay, let's go up to the store, which is, when we say we're going to the grocery store, you're thinking of something bigger, like a giant Safeway, Wegmans. Their grocery store is small. They only accept cash, so I had to go to the ATM to get cash to pay in the store. And then we saw this, like, I calling it a cafe is nice. It was literally all outside. So we were sitting like at a picnic table. There were chickens all running around. There's kitty cat, like.
Well,
And-
hopefully the cat's not getting eaten.
No. I'm pretty sure we ate one of those or two of those chickens though, because we ordered chicken wings.
We'll get it fresh for you right now.
They were trying to make me feel better because they were like, no, that's definitely not the chicken. I'm like,
That's a pet.
But yeah, they're like, oh, those chickens are egg-laying chickens, so that's definitely not them. And the bathroom was like I have no words for what the bathroom was.
There was like shit on the walls.
It was like a wooden shed
Mm.
with a hole in the ground. But we had a really
Glory hole.
it was just, like you could actually sit on it though, because like in some of those areas, like when the hole's in the ground, you have to like squat to it. But it was like raised, and to flush, they have like a bucket, and you're supposed to like dump water to flush it down. And so it's actually some kind of plumbing, but it's not like a porta potty.
So it's not like running water.
Yeah,
You
you have to flush it down to where it needs to go. So that's how a lot of these people live, like your day-to-day people in Indonesia, in Thailand, because every time you see a lot of those places, you're seeing the beautiful beaches and the vacation spots, but the majority of the people, don't have a lot. So to see like something, I like seeing the success. Like there's not like a big Hollywood area. There's not, you know what I mean? So I think it's cool that you picked something from Indonesia.
Yeah, and it was interesting because you brought up the smaller market of it all. Like I remember, and I know you've seen the docs on Bruce Lee. When he came back to Hong Kong,
Hong Kong's like that too.
he was such an impact for them in their film industry. Like they were, remember the scene, like I think it was after The Big Boss, like, they carried him out of the theater. They were celebrating because like they're not used to that. They're not like, and then
and that was the 70s, and Bruce Lee was a huge impact on that entire community. Like there was parts of Hong Kong, now it's gone now, but there was like this it's like 3 buildings kind of together, kind of looked like the fucking Raid. And it was these tiny rooms, which were like family homes, and you would see old pictures of like Bruce Lee's family apartments and stuff. It's a lot of people, very condensed in Hong Kong, but I really feel like Bruce Lee, because Hong Kong now is very nice. I mean, there's still some other areas that are not so great in Hong Kong, but it's a very expensive city. It is like lots of financial. As soon as you see like Bank of America, Citibank, Rothschilds, like all the big. It's a huge, and I really do think Bruce Lee had a lot to do with it. Now I don't know the history of Hong Kong like off the top of my head, but I sit there and I think, for the longest time, Hong Kong was kind of like part of Britain. It was like a colony.
right.
But it still had like its Chinese past. So it really didn't get it's kind of like justice or due or whatever. Yeah. So when Bruce Lee was being successful and getting, like bringing in the money and the fame, it was turning it into its own little version of kind of like Hollywood. So the money started coming in. I mean, Hong Kong's kind of cool, but it's.
You almost would have had a chance to go see Ip Man's grave. I remember.
I know, but that's not close to like you had.
The docks or whatever.
So like Hong Kong has like a central area, and that's kind of where we were, and that's where most.
I probably should have flew out there because then I would have gone.
I was trying to get him out there because I went to Hong Kong twice and it was unexpected because it was during typhoon season, and we were waiting out a storm. The storm was like offshore and it wasn't supposed to make landfall in Hong Kong, so we were just kind of hiding out for 5 days. But they have the Avenue of the Stars, which has Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee, and it's like all the kind of like the Walk of Fame.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, there's a Bruce Lee statue. They have again, Ip Man's grave is north, more into like the countryside. So we would have had to find a cab who would be willing to take us, wait for us to, say but it's literally listed like it's a landmark in Hong Kong.
That's cool.
So it's if my job gives me one thing, I know I'm away a lot.
Gives you a chance to experience other countries and cultures, which is kind of cool.
I never had any desire to go to Thailand, because stereotype is, the sex trade, underage girls. It's not all that. Actually, they have a Muay Thai is huge there, clearly.
Oh, yeah.
And I did not realize how big it was there. People come to Thailand to train from all around the world. So I never...
Van Damme's kickboxer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, Taiwan. I never had any interest to go to Taiwan, and I've been there multiple times, and it is like one of the best places I've ever visited, and I get really sad thinking that something terrible could happen to Taiwan, like any day, because the people are so nice. Even if they only speak Chinese, they'll figure it out. I'm like, yeah, I want some dumplings, and they're like, 4, 5, 6. I'm like, yeah, six dumplings. It's just it's a good experience because we're on a whole different world over here, the way we live versus the way that they live.
Well, here's some clips from...
yeah. Sorry, I'm talking about...
Oh, you're good. That's good information. So, Eco there. Looks so young.
What year did you say this came out?
2009.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't believe 2009 is what? How many years ago? 14?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he's not really old right now, but just, you can tell.
It's the same thing when you look at pictures of people, you're like, wow.
Well, you always laugh at me because, like, we'll watch, like, a modern movie or a show, and I go, I know this person. And then I go, it's like some actor from way back when. You're like, oh, my God, dude, it is. You're so good at spotting these people.
He is. He's good at spotting. And it could be, like, somebody random, like, who's not even a main character. He's like, that guy there, he was in a movie I saw, like, back in the 70s. And
yeah, that's crazy. All right, well, we're down to 31 here, and yet another martial arts film. 2010s from China, True Legend. So it's not Rise of the Legend, but it's True Legend. And this is directed by Wu Ping Young. Cast is Wenzo Zhao, Yuan Zhu, and On. I don't know. I might have fucked that up with my writing. Plot is China 1861. After Rescuing the Queen, is it Qing? How do you pronounce that? King Prince from rebels, General Su retires to start a martial arts school. His foster brother betrays him, and Su barely survives. Su has a new enemy to defeat. And this also features Michelle Yeoh, who we're very familiar with. Her. Yep, she's a great martial artist, great actress. Been around for a while, even been in Bond film. This is one of the ending scenes. Oh. It's so fucking good. The choreography is amazing in this. The plot is great. The story is good. I recently bought both Rise and this on DVD or Blu-ray, and
I've never seen that.
I'm gonna have to show you. It's really good. We don't watch very many martial arts films because we're always doing other stuff. But
yeah, we slow down. It used to be like Kung Fu Saturday night almost, especially when we first started dating. And it would be random things. And I know I've said this many times, like Kung Fu / martial arts. I'm in my 40s, he's in his 50s, and I've always had a hard time sleeping, and I always have been kind of like a late night owl. When I was a teenager, this is in the 90s, we didn't have streaming services. You had the cable, and after midnight, it was Godzilla films and martial arts, or infomercials.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there wasn't a whole lot on TV, and to get on the internet when I was in high school, you had to plug it into the wall, into the phone jack, dial up, and it would boop, 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 boop. You could hear it like your computer dialing up. and you would like make the phone line busy. Like the landline would be busy. You couldn't talk on the phone. We didn't have we didn't have cell phones. I mean, there were people who had cell phones, but they were on a completely different level. It was a different.
I think that's how a lot of the people that we know and ourselves get. Like, we're all like in the cult movies. Like, I hate saying it's cult because there's a lot of movies we like that aren't cult films, but growing up, it seems to be the same pattern with everybody that we know: Samurai, Brandon, Derek, Aaron from Cult of Cinema. Like, it's always like we grow up watching these things. So like tonight, Joe Bob will be back on, and it's all about cult films in a lot of ways because he's been around forever hosting monster movies and stuff like that. People remember him from the 90s doing Monster Vision. That's a lot of people that we are friends with and fans of with movies. That's how we all kind of connect, because movies that we watch are just always in our head. We talk about Bruce Lee. It's something that we saw. Godzilla is something that we grew up with. So it's always kind of interesting how they connect with us and we connect back to a memory about this or that, or how first time we saw something. Even now, like when we talk about Nightmare on Elm Street or something, it's like it's always back.
That was like my childhood, Nightmare on Elm Street, which is probably crazy. People are like, what? I'm sure it would probably scare a lot of other little girls, but it did not scare me. I was all in with Freddy.
All in.
All in.
Well, there you have it, folks.
That's
it. 40 through 31. We have 2 more episodes to go. I'm not sure when we're going to get them done, but we will get them out to you. Next week, I'm supposed to do an interview with Norman Skinner, the new lead vocalist of Forbidden.
Nice.
Neko will be with me to do that. So we'll be able to talk to him a little bit. Outside of that, I'll have my top 5, of course, but I'm not sure what else we got in terms of YouTube stuff. Maybe we'll catch a movie. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 came out. It's got some pretty good ratings right now, so who knows? Maybe we'll make it out and see one of those films. But either way, thank you for tuning in. Subscribe to our channel. Hit the like button because Neko says so. She'll beat your ass if you don't.
Yes, I will.
But thanks again for the support. We appreciate it. And hopefully we've kept your interest in the top 50 movies of the 21st century, according to DJ Anubis.
Not DJ Neko.
No, she's not involved in this because it'd be full of rom-com shit
No,
that just
it
doesn't
wouldn't.
belong.
No, it wouldn't.
No, it wouldn't.
I mean, there would probably be some that I think are top movies. A lot of rom-coms are just like, I don't want to call them garbage.
Let me tell you what would be there. Notebook would be there and Silver Linings Playbook. Guaranteed.
And you know what else would be there? You know what would be there?
Devil Wears Prada, Sex and the City, one of those two. What?
The Departed.
Oh, yeah. Of course that would be there. But who says it's not in my list?
I hope it's in your list. It better be.
She might kill me if it's not.
I want this picture.
No one cares about that. I don't care about that.
Are you a cop?
You cop, boy?
I'm not a fucking cop.
All right. We'll see y'all next time, and take care of yourselves and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Just for you.